Well, here we are. We are live today here on my YouTube channel with a friend of mine. I like to call him a friend because we've had some great discussions about all kinds of things from SEO, mass page, just being in business and life, etc. So I welcome Mike Martin. Thanks for being here for this interview.
Cheers, Daryl. Thank you. Yes, some conversations have been very, very drunk.
Those were the old days. No, but
2 years. 2 years I'm not drunk.
Congratulations on that, Mike. And I have had the chance and the privilege. I know you've written several books, and people always say, Mike, he writes books, and I'm like, yeah, Mike writes books. You write very practical books and ones that are no BS. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you read something and you're like, yeah, we all seen this before and all of that. But what I like about your books is you cut right to the chase and you're honest, just like you are when you and I talk off the air. You know what I mean? The reason why I think you're a good coach is because you don't BS people. You tell them straight like it is. And I'm just telling you that as a friend and as somebody you have coached. I appreciate how you show up. And then when you put out a book like with the F word on it about business, who does that? But Mike, you do it because you're trying to put an emphasis and you're using the language to say, hey, look, this entrepreneurship is not for the light of heart. This is not for, dabbling. This is the real deal. So what are your thoughts about that? And let's get the interview started.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I upset a lot of people, but I have to be myself. I even at one point in my career, I tried to start being more professional, and I couldn't do it. I felt like I was being a fake, phony person. I felt like, and people were like, "You've got to stop swearing." And I've tried, but it's not just how I talk; it's how I think. Mm-hmm. So when I turn around and I say to you, like, I'm fucking excited.
Yeah.
It's because I think in my head, I'm fucking excited. I don't think in my head, I'm excited.
Right.
So it's kind of like I'm retaining what's in my mind. So yes, I kind of do upset a lot of people, but the things that I do from the heart, and I hope that the things that I do will help people. And since in the last few years where money's become no longer important in what it is we do, I've been able to do a lot more things that have been based solely around helping the individuals who are willing to help themselves. Like I've got people chasing me to do coaching, and I will very choosy and very picky who I'll work with. And the people I do work with, in some cases, I won't even take any money off them. Like yourself, I work with yourself and I did things with yourself where I wouldn't take money because I know you're committed, you're going to work hard, and you're going to push, and you're going to actually do something. Whereas a lot of people, as we refer to in the book, are entrepreneurs, and they want it.
Entrepreneurs, that's a good word for it. Yeah,
they believe in the lifestyle, and they believe it's something that they can do and somewhere they can get, but they haven't got the backbone to do it. They'd rather sit on the fucking ass and complain and moan about it and push in the wrong directions, or they'd rather do the busy stuff. So you come in and like, right, my diary says I have to do all this today, and it's like, right, out of all that there, what's pushing your company forward? Right, well, don't do any of it then. Just do the stuff that's going to push you forward, and they can't.
Well, I'll tell you where you've been transformative and how I see business. So I started out my business with a big national DJ company, and we had 4,000 DJs across the country, and we would book events, and that's where I learned SEO, is to bring in the leads for that business. But I also was out hustling as a DJ myself, going out trading time for money, going out hauling speakers, putting them up on stands, and doing that. And I realized, okay, that this is how you do business, right? You just go in, you trade your time, money, resources, and you do that. Fast forward to the middle of the 2000s, I started building websites and software for people. And I started to do that, and I kind of got good at that. But it was, again, when the project ended, you had to hustle to try to find another project, right? And so it was another trading time for money. So then a little bit later, I run into you, and you had your own software, Magic Page plugin, that I found out about, right? We started to I get kind of close together. I was on your shows and we just, did a lot with it. I was always trying to break it and make it better and things like that. So we had a lot of discussions, and I saw, when you license your program, your software, or you're making money while you're sleeping, that opened up my brain about what business was, because I was like, holy cow, I don't have to haul speakers. I don't have to trade my time for money. I can make money while I sleep. And I love that.
Yeah, that was my epiphany, similar to what you've just talked about, came. Yeah. I was watching a show in the UK called Dragon's Den, right, years ago, absolute years ago, right? And I think my brother, we'd just come back from London, and I'd sold my business before going to London, so I had to start a new business. So I was teaching myself to pick locks and stuff like that at the time. But I remember I was watching Dragon's Den because I was hooked on it at the time, and there was this guy came in and he's like, right, if you can give me about 50 grand, we can make this business do about 400 grand a year. And me watching it, I was like, wow, that's absolutely amazing, right? But it relied on this guy staying healthy, being able to work, and being able to actually do the work all day, every single day. And 3 or 4 of the dragons dropped out straight away without saying a word. And I thought, fucking idiots. They ain't got a clue. And then Peter Jones turned around and he says, look, he says, I'm also going to drop out. He says, but I'm going to tell you why. He says, you've got a great business. He says, you're going to make loads of money. He said, but it's a lifestyle business. And as soon as he said it, it was like someone cracked me over the head with an hammer, and all of a sudden, the whole world of business opened up to me. It was like, holy shit, you're living in your business means you're going to go nowhere with it. And it was one of them moments in life where I was just all of a sudden like, oh,
epiphany.
I understand. Yes. And after that, I was always trying to build. But in the UK, a lot of the stuff is regulated. Locksmithing wasn't. So at the time, I started teaching myself to pick locks on YouTube and decided I was going to build a locksmith company. And we got that to 6 figures a month. But what I found out with that is there was no repeat business in there. So you do 100 grand 1 month, right? The following month, you start from zero, and it's every month, and it was stressful. It was horrible. And even though when you've got a lot of money sat in the bank, it's like every month you constant slog. So I knew that when I found something, and it was literally Magic Page was built out of the model that I'd done manually for the websites I'd been building. When I found something, I knew I had to turn it into some sort of repeat income so that we could start to relax and start to actually do business properly. And obviously over the last few years, like the last 5 to 10 years, once we got to 100 grand a month repeat income, I think we were then at the situation where it's like, right, we now got 6 figures a month guaranteed. No matter what we do, we can take our foot off the gas a little bit, and we can start doing things that are long term, that are evergreen, that are going to they might not make us any money for a year, and it might cost us 10 grand a month for a year. But by the end of that 12-month period, we've got an asset worth £1 million, or we've got something that's going to generate 20 grand a month going forward for the next 5 or 10 years. And we started looking at business in a much different way. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, because at the beginning, everybody's chasing the buck. Everybody's trying to make the quick money. They're always trying to get, they're like, I'm going to make 100 grand doing this week. And I remember doing my webinars with on Legends, and I remember them all taking the piss because I was doing like a Walmart webinar, because mine was $39.99 a month.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
yes. And they was all charging $9.97 on the webinars, and I'm like, and they're all like, "You fucking mad?" But now, then after doing that for a month, we had about 10 grand a month coming in. After doing it for 2 months, we had like 20 grand a month coming in. After doing it for 3 months, we had like 30 grand and 40 grand and 50 grand. And then when I'm speaking to them guys, and they're like, they're still trying to do 50 grand months every single month and having to work for it. And now we're in a situation where we're doing several hundreds of thousands every single month without doing anything from these Walmart style webinars, doing low ticket monthlies, where customers never leave because they're happy, because you're not taking the piss on price. But you can also afford to consistently look after them.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Walmart, like, to me, their customer service has gone way down. Here in the United States, they're going to replace a lot of these, places with robots and stuff, because that whole thing has gone down. But the price, the value, because the price is so low, people put up with something like that that's not 100% perfect of an experience, right? So when you talk about value, the value has to really outweigh the inconvenience or the limits or however they perceive it. And you're showing up with high value, but they're now on your list with a good feeling about you and the fact that you deliver good value. Now, the next time you sell something or you bring something else to the plate, they're receptive because they received really great value from you for that
Yeah,
long-term, focus.
I feel like the biggest value thing we offer to
Mhm.
anybody
Yeah.
is Lead Simplify. And the reason I do that is when I first met my business partner, Martin, I was sat in a chair at home. I had I had a payment terminal. I had 2 mobile phones and I had a pad. And at the time I was suffering with gout, so I had my foot up. And the phone must have been ringing every 30 seconds. So I'm picking the phone up, I'm answering it, I'm saying, yeah, how can I help? Blah, blah, blah. Right, yep, I'll send someone out. Then I'm using the other phone to ring contractors and say, I've got this job, can you take it? Can you do this? And I'm do it. And I used to do that 15, 16 hours a day. I had the phone set up next to me bed at home all night when it was just me. And I used to answer the phones going crazy. And it was impossible. And trying to employ somebody that could actually do it for me was next to impossible. And then Martin met me and he sat and his words were something like, first he asked, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm running my business, like dead proud of myself. So I was doing like 4 or 5 minutes a day. I was dead proud of myself. And he's like, are you a fucking idiot? And I was like, what? And he's like, we need to talk. He said, I can automate this for you. And hence Lead Simplify was born. So I know the value of Lead Simplify for the people that use it, right? Anybody who's in that situation where I was, anyone who sells leads or does anything with like external staff or contractors and things, the software that we've got there replaces 50 members of staff easily. Plus it replaces all the headaches because it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it just works. And I find that is one of my proudest things we've done is that because I lived the reality of not having Lead Simplify for years. To the point like where my missus was like, didn't wake her up at night, he did her head in at night, he did my head in at night, but I had to make money. And I'm one of them who never, ever, ever would let, even if it was £100 job and they rang up at night, 2 a.m, couldn't find anyone to cover it, I'd go out and do it myself. So I was doing the job, building the websites, answering the phones, doing all the other stuff. And Lead Simplify gave me my life back. It really did.
Just on a side note, that first national DJ booking agency, when we stopped doing the because after a while it became a headache to actually book the shows ourselves, we decided to do a lead program, and that transformation to take the website from a booking service to a lead program cost us about $300,000 over about a 6-year period. Wow. And all it was doing was what Lead Simplify did for like, whatever we were paying for it. So, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this all you're charging? So that was how we kind of met, was, between Magic Page Plugin and Lead Simplify. And then you've taken Lead Simplify so many different versions, farther beyond even what I was using. So now you're with this book. So I got to ask you this question. Why did you write this book? Who's it kind of for? Because, you've been a lifer at this. So what were you thinking behind making this?
Exactly that. I'm a lifer at this. So I feel like, and you'll probably agree with me here, but I feel like 85% of people are entrepreneurs. I feel like most people think, right, everyone's got it wrong. Nobody understands what a real entrepreneur is, right? Because everybody thinks an entrepreneur is somebody who makes millions, does very little work, and is just super smart, and everything they touch turns to gold, which is absolute bollocks, right? 85% of people are entrepreneurial between the ages of about 18 and 27, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens is you leave school or uni or whatever it is you leave, and you're left in a situation like, what the fuck are you going to do with the rest of your life? Unless you've always trained to be a doctor or a lawyer, or your mum and dad had loads of money and you could think it. So you come out and you're like, shit, I need to get a job. I've got to do something. I've got to work, or I've got to figure out how to make my own money. And what happens is these guys from like 18 to like 27, they fail and they fail again and they fail again and they fail again. And then they go and get some woman pregnant or some girl pregnant. And they're then in a situation where it's like, shit, I have to grow up. And then they have to go and get a job, and it just knocks the stuffing out of them. So that entrepreneurial spirit's gone. They've not got the balls to do it anymore, because they're sat and they're thinking to themselves, I've got to pay the bills. I've got to look after myself. I've got to look after my kids. I've got to do all this stuff. And I feel like 85% of people, if they understood how to be an entrepreneur properly, right, and they understood the rules and the things, because I started from a situation where we were lived on all the roughest and poorest estates, right? but we was always the roughest and the poorest family. Like we had literally nothing. Everyone used to come around our house smoking pot and drinking and things like that. We were little kids running around in rooms full of smoke, like you see in fucking Bob Marley videos. And it was that's kind of us growing up.
That's like
So,
every day here in New York, you know.
yeah,
So
but we started out like that, and I feel like
yeah.
society doesn't get quite what a real entrepreneur is, because they expect you to be rich, and you're not. Entrepreneurs are just people that keep trying and fail a lot, and the reason they keep trying and fail a lot is because they don't understand the steps. They don't understand the steps, each step of the way to make you successful. If you start right at the beginning with your mindset, right, and you get your mindset right, and you start to understand who you are and how you need to act and how you need to push forward and things you need to do. And I've only know this because I've learned this over 20 years of struggling and failing and doing it wrong and saying, I'm not giving up. I'm not letting, like I did at one point. I took a job and I was on good money, company car, all that. And everyone's like, wow, you never finished school. You were 14 and you've worked your way up this company and you're doing really well. And I walked out. I was looking at the directors in there and they were fat and they were overweight, they were unhealthy. The wives were probably getting nobbed at home off someone else. And they just weren't happy. So I just closed my laptop, took my keys on the desk for my company car, and just walked out the door and started myself. I lost my house. I lost everything that I owned, trying. But I made it. And if I'd have known what's in this book, I would have been successful 15 years earlier. And it's done strategically. It's written the way that you need to read it. So it starts off with your mindset, and getting your mindset right and understanding the key things that you need to learn to be successful. And then it goes into the fundamentals of an entrepreneur. So the three main attributes an entrepreneur needs, and what most of us don't have all three of them, but they can be learned. And if you know what they are and you know how to approach them, it works really well. So I wrote it really not for entrepreneurs. I wrote it for people who are struggling, for people who are trying, for people who want to do something great with their lives, not working for somebody else, making somebody else rich, but want to actually make themselves rich and wealthy and want to push forward, but without going through all the failures.
Yeah, I like the structure of the book. I like how it starts with mindset. One of the things that I got a kick out of, because you have in there friends with benefits, and of course there's some innuendo in that. But when I look back at my friends, all of my friends in the adult of my adult life have been in business, and sometimes you're like at lunch. So my wife works a job. She works a government job, gives us benefits, gives us that security and everything like that. But for a long time, it was an adjustment, because I would be out at lunch or, hanging out over here or doing this there, because I had that freedom in that space. And your outside world can sometimes look at that like critical, like, what are you doing? Why aren't you working? Right. And for me, I was working. That's my network. And these people were there for me when I needed to lean into that network. So I wanted to have you just talk about that, the Friends of Benefits part of your book, because I really like that, because that really spoke to me.
Well, I mean, the whole point to the Friends with Benefits part is literally what most people do, right? Now, there's nothing better than being the smartest guy in the room. Not the smartest guy in the room, the most successful guy in the room, right?
Yeah.
Nothing feels better than that, right? So you're in a room, you're the one that drives the brand new 200 grand Mercedes, and everybody else drives the 60, 50, 40, 30 grand cars, and you've got the 7-bedroom mansion. Now it feels great, right? Because everything we do and everything that people do in general, almost every single decision we make is based on status, right? You don't even realize you do it. Like, people will buy a Ferrari for status, but people will also not buy a Ferrari for status. They'll buy a shitty little Fiesta because they don't want to be seen to be the knob down the street who's driving 45, can't get out of his car, who's driving a brand new Ferrari that costs 250k. So even them decisions, even the negative decisions, are made with status. And Friends with Benefits is not about, you have to give that status that you want, like a push to the side and say, look, I'm not interested in being known for this, or being the biggest guy in the room, or being the most successful. And it's about looking at your friends, and I won't say too much because I want people to read the book. It's about looking at your actual friends that you've currently got, friends and family, the people that you spend the most time with. And they say you are like the mirror of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
And what the book does is it kind of gives you a structure and a strategy on building friendships that will, over the next few years, increase your net worth, will increase your opportunities, will increase what it is you're able to do as an entrepreneur, rather than just floating through life blindly and not quite getting what it is you have to do. And a lot of people just friends with, well, he's my mate, I like him, cool, done. But you don't get anything from that, even though you think you do, because you like the person, you like spending time with them. I lived in over 100 houses growing up, and what I found was,
oh wow,
friendships come and go very, very easily. And I don't mind that sometimes I'll spend 6 months doing nothing but being friends with a set group of people, and then I might not see them for 10 years. But I kind of look at that as like learning sections of my life. Your life is like a book, and that's a chapter in your life that comes, goes, changes. I don't expect anything from anybody else, but the chapter kind of gives you a step-by-step approach to help building friendships that make you more successful in life, and increasing your overall net worth, because that's really what it's all about, is increasing your overall net worth and your overall opportunities. And that chapter, which is probably 10 or 11 pages long, is just that chapter on its own is worth the cost of the book, because that really, really helps people.
Yeah, it's really good. I also loved what you were talking about focus, because that sometimes is a thing for me. I have a lot of things on my plate, as you have, but I love how you kind of talk about how to stay focused until completion. And I was wondering if you want to talk a little bit about that, because as people are getting into 2023 here, new year, they might want to have a new approach in how to, get things across the finish line to be more successful. What do you want to say about that chapter?
I mean, everybody knows that focus and determination are kind of brother and sister. They come together as one, and you need them both together, and you need to follow that same path. But the problem is that people have a habit of focusing on the wrong things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so focus is super important. But for example, when I first started out my locksmithing company, I spent all day, every single day, with HTML pages, copying and pasting the information across, changing the location information inside of the pages, creating another page, creating another page, creating another page, making them almost SEO perfect, creating another page, creating another. So now it took us probably, I think it was about 4 weeks to create the first 900-page website. It might have been longer. It might have been 8 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks to create the first actual decent 900-page website that generated tons and tons of traffic for us. And I had to focus on that day in, day out, and pushing. And people will be like, wow, that's super focused. That's the type of focus you need to get there. But that focus was in the wrong direction. If you think about focus, you've got to. Now, a few years later, I realized if I actually focus on creating software that can do what takes me 8 weeks to do in a day, then I get all my time back. So I'm not trading time for what I'm doing anymore. So you have to remain super focused, and you have to push forward with focus, but you've got to focus on the right things that's going to push the business forward the right way. And that kind of gives you a proper strategy to do that inside the book.
Yeah, I think that's the critical thing, right? Is yes, having the focus. I like what you said there. Now, we are speaking to Mike Martin. He is an author of a new book that is out. And if you go into the bio of this video, you can see the link and how to get a copy of this book. There's a UK link and there's a US link inside of that webpage. Also, this is a live stream. So if you want to make any kind of comment, we'll see it right here inside the studio, so that I'll get a chance to reply to you, or we can bring it up to Mike and see what his thoughts are. But Mike, I appreciate you being here with me to talk about this today. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you also about is this do it, say it, own it, because I thought that was a really powerful chapter. And I was wondering if you can kind of, because I've always thought, if you're bald, own it, like, what I mean, make it part of your business, right? Don't like shy away from what is staring at people. Be more of it. I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that one.
Yeah, I mean, what I find is, so a great example is what will happen is you'll get these entrepreneurs that will come out, and they'll be all over the place, and then all of a sudden they'll say something, okay, that upsets somebody, right?
Mhm.
And what they do is they make the big mistake. They believe what they've said, but they're like too scared to actually own it, right? So what they do is they go and apologize. Now, if you go and apologize for something you said and something you believe in, you're weak. And straight away, what will happen is the vultures will come out, everybody will come out, and everybody will jump on it, and everybody will absolutely crucify you for it. Whereas if you just turn around and say, fuck off, I don't care what you think. It's what I think. I'm not interested in what you've got to say. So that's kind of the chapter in a nutshell. It's all about it's all about being able to own your beliefs, own what you say, own what it is that you do, rather than because the world's getting stupid now. It's politically correct, it's gone ridiculous, in my opinion. I mean, there was a guy who lost his job. He'd been 35 years, he'd been a reporter, and he said, men are men and women are women, right? 35 years, right? He's got a family, he's got a mortgage, he's got a life, he's got everything, he's got kids that are growing up, going through school. He lost his job, lost his career, lost absolutely, and it's like, for fuck's sake, right? It's ridiculous, and I feel like we're going too far with the way that we're looking at this, and the way that we're actually taking on. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's no point in upsetting somebody and hurting somebody's feelings, but when they're being ridiculous, I think you have to own what it is you say, and I think you have to literally just tell them to fuck off. Sorry,
Well,
but it's bluntly.
yeah, I mean, there's a customer base for every opinion. So, right. So you have to sort of weigh that alongside. But I think at the same point, you're right. I mean, we can go from one extreme to another. And just like, with anything, it's sort of the extremes don't really work out so much. Um, so we're talking to Mike Martin. He is an author of a book called Fuck You. I'm an entrepreneur, and it is a guide, really. It is a guide that doesn't, waste your time. I have a degree in business, marketing management, and communication arts. Um, and, the things that we learned, like statistics and calculus and, all this stuff, I don't use every day. But the stuff in Mike's book, I do use every day. And so, like, if you're looking to like be in business and succeed in business, pay attention to what Mike's saying. And Mike keeps it simple, keeps it grounded. And one of the things, I noticed, I saw some punctuation, let's see, I saw some capitalization issues and little things like that. And then, I was thinking, who cares? Because if you dotted every I or every T perfectly or whatever in everything that you did in life, you wouldn't start, you wouldn't finish, you wouldn't do all this stuff. And, I was wondering what you think, like, about that, about going at something imperfectly, but focusing on the substance of what you're doing and doing it instead of worrying about analysis paralysis and the perfect details of every single capitalization. And if you did that and you didn't write the book because you spent too much worry about that, you know what I mean? What do you think about that?
I'm going to quote somebody else's book here, because there's an absolute brilliant book about it. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim. And it's all about exactly what you just said. Get it ready, fire. And then after you've fired, then you start aiming, then you start going after your target markets, then you start worrying about making your product perfect. Figure out, first of all, is it going to make you money? Is it going to sell? Is it going to be right? Yeah. And if it isn't, then scrap it and walk away and carry on. And it's the same with anything like this. I haven't spotted any punctuation problems in there. My staff have. My staff have said to me, you do know that this is like this? And I'm like, not bothered. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. If somebody reads it, does it make sense? They're like, yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, that word shouldn't be capitalized, or that shouldn't have but it makes sense. So it's like, well, I'm just not bothered. It's not something I'm going to lose sleep over, and it's not something I'm going to spend another 7. Don't worry, get me wrong. I've gone through the book a lot, and I've cut out a lot of things. But a great book, in addition to the one we're looking at here, is Ready, Fire, Aim. That there takes that to the next level. He's been so successful by just saying, let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's just get it off the
Yeah.
ground. Let's just get it going. Let's see if it works. Let's take it to market. And if it works, it works. And then incrementally upgrade your products, incrementally upgrade your services over a period of time. Once you know what the customer wants, rather than thinking you know absolutely everything and procrastinating like forever about something that in 99.9% of the time you're wrong. Most people don't want what you think they want. So if you get the bare bones out of a product or a service or a book, and then you then take back from your customers the information that they feed back to you and let you know what it is they want, you can make the perfect product, but you can also make a ton of money whilst you're doing it, which means you can pay your staff the right amount, which means it will take less time to get there, which means you can give a better service to your customers because the people are paying right out of the gate, rather than absolutely skinning yourself and probably taking on third-party money to get to where you want to be, and other people owning huge sections of your company when it's not necessary. You could be making money from day one.
Very true. And just like with software, books can have versions too. Second edition might be more polished and the third edition might be more polished. But you know what you're doing is, in this version, you're proving the point that the interest is there for your content. And so like if you sell 50,000 copies of this book, well, guess what? Maybe the next version goes through more of an editing process. But the thing is acting is what's important. Yeah. I mean, maybe not for you, but I mean, for anybody that's doing something, understand that sometimes getting it done and getting it out and then proving the demand for something is better than having it perfect out the gate. There are a lot of people, like I know a lot of friends that are authors of mine. They're friends of mine that go through that publishing process of the layouts and the editing, and you can't say this and maybe you should say that, and months go by that they could be selling books and on tour doing the thing that they want to do, but instead they're worried about what this editing process is. And I think it's that way with a lot of stuff. With a lot of stuff is that if you are not moving forward and you're in this, just like minutia of just like, trying to make it absolutely perfect, I think it is a loss. It's a loss for people. Now, a little bit about thinking big. I think a lot of people get these big thoughts, these big, I don't want to say grandeur, visions of grandeur of what their business idea is and how big it's going to go. And you have an approach in how you deal with, like, big dreamers in business, and how to get it practical so that they can actually see and their way toward the end of this. And so I want to have you talk a little bit about that, this think big, and how to think big long term, and how to like sort of prove everything, because I loved your wisdom on that.
Well, yeah, it's exactly like you said. A lot of people think big, and a lot of people, but they don't, like you just said, they don't think long term. They don't think about what's gonna, like, for example, we've recently started releasing training courses, and I've got a team of staff working on these training courses that are all being created. And the first question we ask, okay, before we create anything, is it evergreen? The first question we ask, right? Now I know, I did a YouTube video earlier today about somebody who's got 5.7 million subscribers on YouTube. And literally, he created a training course 5 years ago plus, and he's still selling the same training course at the end of every single video, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of views every single day. He's an example of somebody who thought big and thought long term. Yeah. So the first thing we ask, and I asked my team, is, because I'll let the girls say, right, what do you want to teach? What are you interested in? What would you like to actually create a training course about? What gets you boat going? What makes you excited? And then they'll give me a list of things that's exciting, and I'll say, well, that, like SEO, for example. I don't think there's any point in creating an SEO course, right? And the reason I don't think there's any point is because it can change in 3 months, and then you're back to square one and you're starting again. Whereas if you're creating something on influence or on psychology or on charisma or anything like that, I think you're in a situation where if I give you a training course today and you don't watch it for 5 years, and then you open the training course, it's just as relevant in 5 years as it is right now. So a lot of people are great at thinking big, like, we're going to make millions off this. but then they don't think long term when they're thinking big. So the whole point of the chapter in that is you get to the point where that's right near the end of the book, and it basically covers how to actually think big and think long term. Like when I first started out as an entrepreneur, probably 49 out of every 50 things I did failed, right? And slowly over a period of time, it got down to maybe 9 out of every 10 things I did failed. And in the last few years, in the last 5 years or so, I've been in a situation where I can't think of much that's failed. Over the top of everything seems to be successful. And it's not because I'm lucky, and it's not because I've got loads of money. It's because
you learn the process.
Yes,
what you mean? Yeah.
You figure out how to analyze a situation and say, right, okay, so yeah, let's say we're going to make 100 grand off that the first month we release it. Brilliant. What's next? And then they're like, well, it's not going to go anywhere. I was like, what's the fucking point then? Why do I want 100 grand? Another 100 grand makes no difference to me whatsoever. I want a business that might make me 10 grand in the first month, and then maybe 12 grand in the second month, and then 15 grand in the third month, and then it grows gradually over a period of time, and it's like a ladder, and it keeps growing gradually over a period of time and getting bigger. So you think big, but if you've got to think long term, and that's where a lot of people struggle, because they're like, we could sell 100 of these in year one, but where's it going from there in year two, and is it still going to be relevant in year two? Right. And I think that's chapter 16. I've got a list of the chapters in front of me. Chapter 16, that's kind of right near the end, because there's 17 chapters in the book. And obviously we take you through absolutely everything. And then as people are becoming more and more successful, I then start by the end of the book teaching people how to analyze a situation, how to analyze an opportunity to see whether, because anyone came to me with any opportunities when I was in my 20s. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do this. And we're going to do that. And we're going to do the other. And someone will come and I'd have 17 different projects on the go. And I couldn't do any of them right. And there is a chapter in the book somewhere which talks all about that, about obviously you focus and how to focus the right way and how to stay determined and how to not break yourself into, because it was my mum who said it to me years and years and years ago. I was trying to take 5 industries when I did the locksmithing. And she turned around and she said to me, what happens if you try and do too many things all at once? And I was like, don't know. And she went, you can't do anything right. You do everything half-hearted. And it's like, shit, she's so right. So I quit I quit the plumbing side, the roofing and everything else that I was going to do, and just focused on the locksmithing. And within, it might have been 12, 18 months, we had over 200 subcontractors on a national basis doing regular 6 figures a month income, not clear profit to us. But we were taking between 40 and 50% of every single job. So we were making seriously good money in that one industry, doing almost nothing.
That's amazing. One of the things you also talk about, there's a chapter in there about having the willingness to kind of break all the rules, or, to sort of not that you don't pay your taxes, but like, find ways that you're thinking outside the box, let's just say. You want to talk a little bit about that, maybe how that has served you in your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think society is designed, right? So, and I think everything, right away from religion, politics, to schools, to everything, it's designed as like a control mechanism. Okay, everything's designed as a control mechanism that uses our selfishness against us to keep us in line. And I feel like society as a whole is designed to say, right, and it's good for society. 95% of people do need to go down the job route, and they do need to earn a normal wage, and they do need to go into debt, because obviously debt feeds the economy. I forgot the word, but debt feeds the economy and helps it grow. And breaking the rules is kind of a way of coming out of that and seeing it for what it is, and realizing that society is designed to control you, and it is designed to keep you down. And there are a few people right at the top who are super smart, who want to be able to keep all the money, but there needs to be 95, 96% poor for it to work. But you don't necessarily it's good for society, but it's not good for you. Okay, because then you end up trading time for money. You end up working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, plus doing overtime, plus doing weekends, not seeing your kids, not seeing your missus enough, ruins your life, ruins your relationships, ruins your bank balance, puts you into debt, stresses you out, kills you early, and all the rest of that stuff. Whereas if you figure out how to break the rules and actually just follow your own path. It's kind of more about following your own path and becoming what you want to be, what you wanted to be when you were 15, not what society tells you you need to be. Because everybody's got something they want to be when they grow up when they're 15, and they want to be like a superhero. They want to. I mean, when I talk to people about what it is I do, and if I ever was to ever share the type of money that we generate and the sort of income that I get coming into, people would be like, oh, they'd be shocked, they'd be surprised, but they'd be in a situation where it's like, oh my God, because I literally get up in the morning, take my son to school, I come straight from school, I come here, I've got a private gym next door there, so I come in and use my private gym. Then I go home, get a shower. I don't use the shower in the building. I go to my house, have breakfast with my missus, get back into the office for about 10 a.m. I stay here till 2. Then I have a quick meeting with Martin on the phone, my business partner, and then I go and pick my son up from school, and that's me done. And then I come in for things like this. But I never work more than 4 hours a day. Never, ever, ever work more than 4 hours a day. And it's because I built my future the way I wanted it to be. And I'm in a situation where I can always put my kids first, and I can always put my missus first. And it doesn't matter if I go and get done for something tomorrow that's seen as really, really, really bad. Now, it's not going to happen because I don't drink and I don't do stupid things. But if I did, my life wouldn't change, because I hold the shoestring to my life. And when I did have a job, it used to scare me, because it used to be like, if that guy in the big office down the hall, the one that's making all the money, decides to cut that string, my life's gone. I've lost my house, I've lost my mortgage, I've lost everything. Whereas, so I feel like the only way forward is to stand on your own 2 feet, be independent, and break the rules that society has put on us.
Yeah, we have one person in the chat, Walt Nelson. He says he can't wait for your book about charisma. So maybe you better get working on that one.
My newest book's about copywriting, actually, and it's called No One Gives a Shit About You, and it's nearly finished. I can see a few there. Dragon's Den, precursor to the Shark Tank. It certainly was. Yes, Shark Tank's absolutely awesome. I love shows like that. Mike, are you a coder, or do you outsource to the app development? I outsource. We've actually got an office in Manchester where my business partner's based, and that's where our in-house developers are. And then we do a lot of outsourcing. Break the rules.
But don't go to jail.
Talking investors. No, we're not looking at investors. It's not something, well, that we'd ever take on board. Yeah. We play. We like to play, and obviously, if you take on investors, you've got a boss. And I just wouldn't want a boss. I won't answer to anyone except my missus and my kids. Because they terrorize me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great read, guys, if you're looking for something that is no nonsense, and especially if you are an aunt or an uncle or somebody that just has somebody in your sphere that wants to be successful in business, but you don't have the right advice, or you don't know how to get to the process that we talked about. I mean, this is a process that Mike uncovers for you and just sort of really just lays it out just really clearly. This is, if you're looking for a business school approach to business, you might want to look through John Maxwell's books or one of these other books. But if you want like just this is it, and you're sort of are self-taught through realistic ways of looking at how to build a business from the ground up without funding. And with just like that, to me, you should be very proud of yourself, because, like you said before, when you bring in investors and you bring in all these expectations on you because you borrow money from Uncle Joe or whatever, that's a whole different approach that I think some people are successful because they have that funding. But you've done it because you started without any funding. You have done it because you have had the determination, let's just say, and you are smart. You're a smart guy, and you figured it out along the way. And now you're just like sharing it, which I think is really cool. You're just kind of sharing, like, this is the process and how to do it. And it's sort of a bootstrap way, but this works. So I think it's good that you left these breadcrumbs for people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the beginning, I would have taken on funding, but when you leave school at 14, you got no qualifications, and you can't even get a job in McDonald's, actually getting somebody to turn around and say, I believe in you, is never going to happen. So it was that, or it was continue making pallets for a living, or working in potato, because I did all the terrible jobs, the stone picking, the pallet yards, the hay baling, you know, the things that you just, it's horrible. And then you make like 15 to 20 quid a day. And he's like, there's got to be something better out there. But there is, and it's not actually that difficult. The internet has made the world so small. The internet has made the world. I mean, you're sat in New York, I'm sat in Weymouth in the UK, and we can have a chat like we're in the same room, which is it's ridiculous. But it's also made it super easy to market anything. And I think a lot of people try and market to everybody.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest mistake. The thing is to niche down, find a good niche, and actually market to the right people that are interested in what it is you do. Because even people that are interested in pink wellies with loopholes in them, there's probably 100,000 of them in the world, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such a big world, and it's so easy to market to absolutely any demographic these days that there's no reason for anybody not to be successful, even if they're starting without money, because things like YouTube enables you to market to anybody and everybody for free, pretty much. It's
yeah,
free.
and speaking of YouTube, that's kind of how I fell in love with you as a friend, is that you always had these great videos, and you just were just plain Mike, always starting with the same intro, and you just kind of did your thing. But of late, in the last 12 months, you did a whole series of videos from you in your car. You dropped off your son at school, you're in your car, you're making the best of it, of your time, which I love that dual tasking idea. And you were giving some great advice. It's like we're on this ride along with you, right? And you're just kind of giving us advice about different things. So do check out Mike Martin's YouTube channel for some of those ride along talks. I hope you don't stop doing those, because I actually really do like those. And I'll go ahead and put a link to your YouTube channel inside my description on this video.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing them. It was it's because I'm so busy at the minute that I literally, whenever, and sometimes I forget, because I'm constantly studying as well. I think the one thing that I mean, one of the chapters in the book is read and read some more. And I'm a massive believer that you can't learn everything yourself unless you're Gary Vaynerchuk. For some reason, he says, I've never read a book, and he's just super smart, but there's not many Gary V's about. And I feel like you need to learn from other people's experiences. So it's not just about reading my book, but it's about reading everything you can get your hands on any particular subject you're interested in.
Absolutely. All right. One last time, if you want to ask some questions in the chat, we are live currently on YouTube. If you want to ask any questions directly to Mike Martin, this is a great opportunity to do so. And if you're watching on the replay, go ahead and put a comment in there, and both Mike and I will follow along and see if there's any messages that come in through there. Let's see. Great interview. Thank you very much. Let's see. Some people are not hungry enough to start their own business, give talks at local high schools, and run into issues all the time, sadly. Thomas, you're very welcome. David, thank you so much for joining this live show. But yeah, I mean, the young people, I kind of think that the gig economy, like driving your Ubers and you're delivering foods and all that kind of stuff, is what people sometimes think that entrepreneurship is a little bit. And it's like that is like going the safe route. It's really a glorified job, really, because you're trading time for money in it. I think that people need to learn that the gig economy really is not, it isn't what you're talking about. You're talking about really going out there and being your thing, being it.
Like I said earlier, do the thing you wanted to do when you were 15. And just focus on it and push. But don't get me wrong, everybody starts, you have to make money at the beginning, and you have to focus on generating an income and making money. I mean, I just shared with you earlier, last week, we've started 2 new channels. One of them is about history of true crime, because I love history of true crime. I've put 4 members of staff, right, building that channel. So that channel's going to go big really, really fast. The other one is about, basically, it's called Human Influencers, and that's going to be about people who have influenced the world. Now, that could be anyone from Pol Pot to Hitler, right the way up to like I'm trying to think of somebody good. You can tell I
Right.
like bad people, but like US presidents and people like that that have really had a big impact on the world, JFK and people like that. So it can be absolutely anybody, and those things really interest me. And a lot of what we're doing now is based around things that actually interest me more than what will actually make money. But in the long term, if I spend a year and I have 4 members of staff working for a year on that, it might cost me a couple of $100K to build it. But the potential that that's going to generate money when you've got 500,000 subscribers sat there, and you can get deals off certain people to promote their products and do things via that, or I write another book which is about true crime and I promote it through the channel, it'll pay itself back
Right.
over and over and over again.
You,
So I think it's about learning to follow what it is you want to do and figuring out how you can turn it into money as well.
yeah, you see a lot of businesses doing exactly what you're talking about, is building these assets with this video content that, right now it goes to YouTube, but maybe at some point it has some other purpose somewhere else. Building the content that people are craving on an ongoing evergreen basis is really smart. I think what you said there about like SEO, for example, is it's sometimes outdated in 6 months. And if what you're talking about is opinion or short-term stuff, like short-term celebrities even, right? I mean, you're talking about the great influencers, right? You're talking about people that they'll still be researching 50 years from now.
Yeah.
That's what you're investing your money into, is educating people on that, and like teaching about long-term things like your charisma course that's coming out very soon. And
that's not right. That was a video I shared, that video I shared this morning on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I share an image on it at the beginning, and kind of that image is something that I drew at the start of the year, at the start of last year, and I said to my team, right, different team that's doing the YouTube now, but I said to my team, right, what I want you to do, and I explain the strategy behind it all, and it's all about multi-level marketing, but obviously creating courses that are going to work on an evergreen basis, creating books that are going to work on an evergreen basis. And that people who have read those books or done those courses are interested in what it is they're doing it for. So then you teach them how to make money from it themselves as an entrepreneur. And then if they need a hand holding, you sell them up to a VIP. And the whole process kind of keeps growing and keeps scaling and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But whilst doing that, we landed on a gold mine, like a gold mine where literally it cost you almost nothing. It starts getting traffic straight away, straight out the gate, cost you nothing. And so it's like probably 95% profit on everything you sell. And because of that, I shared it in the video this morning, because we landed on that gold mine and I was like, holy shit. And I said, we've got that many directions we're going in at the minute, and all of the team members are all busy, that I'm like, right, we can't follow that full out, bam, go, but I'm going to share it with everybody else, and hopefully a few people will come back and say, look, we are doing it, don't get me wrong, but we're not doing it on a huge scale like we could, although some of the stuff we are doing is very evergreen style and we'll push forward like that. But that is, I mean, I don't think I've seen anything in everything that I've ever done make as much money for as little investment and be as have the potential for the longevity. And I use the Charisma on Demand YouTube channel as an example, because they're the guy who's basically built 5.7 million subscribers doing the exact thing that I show in the YouTube video. And I only found his channel because I was looking to try and figure out if anyone else had figured this out. And when I looked, I was like, holy shit, people have not only figured it out, but they're making, I mean, if he's pushing, he did a video one day ago and it had 113,000 views during my video, right, in 24 hours. So if you think, and he offers his training course at the end of every single one of those videos, think of the potential that's in there.
That's it.
Even if he's selling 1%.
That's it.
It's crazy.
It's I mean, your subscribers, your new email list, because the thing is you know, all of, like you said, you tagging at the end, which are, let's say every Saturday you do a webinar, right? And you put out, you know, you've got 100 videos that are really good content. You got, you know, dozens and dozens of thousands each day checking out your videos. They're just coming into your funnel. And so you bring them into your webinar, and then you can kind of go into a whole lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, the ads on, if you guys are looking to produce content to get the money from the ads, you're missing the boat on YouTube, because there's a whole lot more underneath that when you build a course or you build a webinar or you build, and you know webinars better than almost anybody I know, Mike. So I'm sure that's in your playbook.
I've actually got a book called How to Create the Perfect Sales Presentation or Perfect Sales Webinar. And that is, I mean, I've made more money from webinars. And even though I've got all these different things that I do, that's been my biggest income generator over everything I've ever done. And I didn't do it that long. I spent so much time studying and thinking it, but actually pushing it. I probably spent a year, 2, and we made so much money doing those webinars. It's ridiculous. We've actually got a new webinar coming out this year, which I'm going to have to start doing again. But yeah, webinars, because you're selling to 300, 400, 500 people at once, you're in a situation where 20% conversion in that room. Whereas if you go in and sitting in a room and trying to sell 1-to-1, you're in a position then where you can only sell to 1. And if you're converting at 20% there, it's bad. You should be converting at 50% on face-to-face meetings. But in a webinar, a 20% conversion rate, even though you tend to get a hell of a lot more, could still be 100 sales in one day.
Absolutely. Thomas Metric, thank you so much for buying the book. He says it's very readable, and he caught it all in one read. So excellent. Well, Mike, we're going to trade seats at some point, and you're going to interview me on your channel coming up. So I appreciate the offer to do that. I'll get in your calendar for that. But yeah, I think we could leave it right here. But I really appreciate you spending the time with me, not just in this talk, but off this talk, just like, kind of talking about business. And, you build software that is kind of close in line with some of the stuff that we still talk to each other about things. And a lot of people probably don't even know that we're doing that, because you're even helping me, even though I could be a competitor to you. And that just shows the kind of man you are. So
there's so much business out there, mate. I don't even think about the rules of competition. There's no point.
Yeah.
Just carry on doing it and just enjoy it. And I think that's what makes it. Because if you focus, I mean, a good friend of mine once said to me, I can't touch Lead Simplify because it's too close to my own product. And he'd not even released the product yet. He'd not even finished the product. He'd not released the product. He'd never done anything with it. And I don't think he'd still released the product. And then when he was ready to try and release the product, I actually said, give me a shout and I'll tell you exactly how we're promoting and marketing Lead Simplify so you can get your product to market well, you do it profitable straight out of the gate. And I did. But for 2 years before that, he wouldn't do anything for any of my products or have anything to do with any of them because he was too worried that it was too close to a product he was going to release in 2 years' time. And it's like the amount of money he must have lost and obviously the potential he could have grown his own network. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to take a look at the fact is that, we can learn from each other and still all prosper at the same time together. And I think that that's sort of the abundance that your book talks about. I mean, it really gets into that fact that, if you get the mindset right, you get the process right, there's plenty to go around.
As long as you put the customer first, I think the key to any business is right. Whereas a lot of people they jump into business and they want to get rich, and that's it. And they're thinking about them and themselves and their lives and their Ferraris and their Lamborghinis and their 5-bedroom houses and all the rest of that stuff. Whereas if you just think, right, if I can do this one little thing, it can make every single customer's life that little bit easier, that little bit better.
That's a good point.
Cracked it. It's that simple. It really is that simple. And then it's all understanding marketing like hooks and loops and things like that so that you can actually get people to pay attention to your content, because like I said earlier, no one gives a shit about you and people won't read your content or watch it or go through any of your stuff unless there's something in it for them. But if you can make it for the customer and if you can change their life better, and then you can figure out a good hook and a good loop that's going to help them to consume all of your content from start to finish, then you're onto a winner.
All right. Thank you, Mike. If you are interested in Mike's book, see the screen here, book.mikem.uk. It's also in the description. And I'll also, after this call, put in a link to Mike's YouTube channel, because I think there's a lot of nuggets in there, not just about webinars and some of the tools that he puts out, but also those ride-alongs in his car. I think that those are invaluable. And he's done a lot of like different talks over the years that I've really, truly enjoyed. So, Mike, I've enjoyed this interview a whole lot. I hope maybe this is the start of many other kinds of talks like this that we can do, and just a lot of value in this. So guys, go back and listen to it again. Make sure you get Mike's book, because I think you'll be very happy with what you picked up from it. It's available on Kindle, which is how I got it. And you can also get it on paperback as well. So whatever works best for you. So thanks, Mike. I appreciate you coming on.
Cheers, pal. Thank you very much. See you later, guys. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.